So place matters to people. It's part of their identities. It's part of their community. It's their community. Now, of course, governments often struggle to respond to that because they're designed to be universal in the most part, dealing with the needs and rights of all citizens to access government services, whether it's health or education. That gets complicated when it comes to dealing with the particular circumstances and aspirations of people in their communities.
Even when economies rise and fall, we still see these pockets of entrenched disadvantage that are largely immune to all these efforts and changes, and therefore place offers something as a complementary initiative to that. So it's a bespoke approach where you're trying to target your response quite specifically to both the sort of barriers and opportunities that exist in a community rather than a programmatic response that is doing a kind of universal service offer.
Universal services are very important, but so are tailored, targeted services to groups of people who feel very disconnected and marginalised. In Brisbane, when we talk about Brisbane, it takes a lot to know your place. It takes a lot of depth and knowledge and relationships.
And so the best hope is with place-based initiatives that, as I've said, need to be holistic as well as community-based, and it's hard work, and it's long-term, it's generational, but it really is important.
There was a recognition that we've done this, we've done trials, we've done initiatives. How do we start to think about a sort of institution to help hold some of that, not in a controlling way, but in an enabling way?
And we came together and we kind of imagined, what would it take to really, turbo drive this kind of work? And one of the things that we kept coming up with was that there needed to be, a national support base that would be able to assist with, capacity and skills, but also be a holding place for developing methodology that could be shared, and the research that different groups were doing, and also they had shared system barriers. So how could we create a space where people could come together and work on those, collectively, rather than all being siloed and trying to do that individually?
If the call for a national intermediary were to be substantiated, then communities needed to determine its terms of reference and its value. So that, to me, was why Collaboration for Impact put a proposal together to take up an enabling role or a design role to help shape what place would become.
I was fortunate enough to be a part of the co-design work, which was developed up the prospectus. My role in that was as an independent chair for NEXUS at the time. And again, through that experience, and no different through the experience of empowered communities, it brought together place-based practitioners all over the country to have input into the co-design for the proposal to the federal government and philanthropics as to what place could do in this area.
I think the first impressions of the task were that there was a prospectus that defined the need and that it was representing community needs, capability gaps, aspirations, and that philanthropy and government together wanted to be able to do something about that.
We put a complex funding deal with, I think, 5 major philanthropic funders and the Commonwealth Government together. So all of that, there's easier ways to do things, but sharing responsibility for creating this important Australian institution and this important infrastructure for place-based work was really what we were after. We wanted it broadly shared.
I think one of the best things about those discussions was the decision to have a community council as part of the place governance structure, and that was very much about making sure that the voice of community guided the board, and I don't think that would necessarily have been the same if either party had done it separately. So we got a much better result by both parties being there and both having the same purpose.
So the roots of Place Australia, I think, are very solid, and I think the opportunity to build on that, what does good look like and how do we support that, and how do we think respectfully and thoughtfully about funding and replicating that which we know works, but understanding that what it will take is leaders in communities around the country to embrace and utilise that expertise, that funding, that resource in their own way, in ways that make sense in their own communities. So the opportunity to do that in a more thoughtful, connected way, I think, is critically important.
So Place is a world first in many respects with our governance model and our funding model. So we're jointly funded by government and 5 philanthropic funders in consortium, so dollar for dollar, government philanthropy. And so both government and philanthropy have committed to that tripartite model as well, where having community as a third and equal partner is such a crucial component of the work that we do.
My hope for community-led work in Australia in the future is that it is prioritised as an approach, that it is put forward whenever considerations are being made about how to work in communities or how to spend money in communities, that community-led is prioritised, that it is embedded in every project, in every approach, that communities are empowered and supported to do good governance, to work together well, to overcome conflict, to find consensus, but that it is the way that we do these things. We do it with community, it is led by community, and that community have the power to make decisions about what happens to them and how it happens.